Welcome once again to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari. The clue's in the name. This is very much Ferrari home turf, and the locals will be out in force today to support their team in what we hope will be a magnificent spectacle of motorsport. On then to the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. 3.1 miles of track at Imola featuring 19 turns, 9 to the right and 10 to the left. Remember that Imola differs from most other Formula One tracks as it's taken anti-clockwise. Let's hope nobody forgets that today. The exit from turn 18 will probably be the setup for many of today's overtakes, leading as it does into the longest straight on the circuit and its only DRS zone. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Piastri, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, and Tsunoda, Russell, Fernando Alonso, Albon, and Isaac Hadjar, Gasly, Antonelli, Carlos Sainz, Doohan, Lawson, Ocon, Lance Stroll, and Gabriel Bortoleto, Behrman, and Hughes. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. And alongside me a man, well, what more can I say? But he's a legend. Anthony Davidson. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
Mic on.
Fala aí, pessoal, tudo bem? Hoje vai ser um episódio meio diferente. Não teve qualifying, teve problemas na gravação, então o que rolou foi que a gente fez o Q1, ficou muito atrás, o carro tá muito lento, não os upgrades que teve, os pacotes de upgrades que a gente teve para trazer para Imola, todos falharam, então todo mundo tá com upgrade novo, menos o carro da Sauber. Então a gente ficou 3 segundos atrás do primeiro colocado no Q1, eu decidi então mudar todas as peças do carro e vamos largar de último. Espero que gostem, só vai ter a corrida hoje por conta da gravação cortada. Valeu!
Mic off.
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out. As the cars make their way back to the starting grid to form up and get ready for lights out, let's hope the race ahead today is a thrilling one that will go down as a memorable Grand Prix in the history books.
That start was okay, now stay alert for threats around you. We can now use DRS. DRS now available. Right, show some respect for your teammate. There's little satisfaction to be had in overtaking like that. Okay, so gap to the car ahead, 4.1 seconds. No tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving. approaching the pit window now, and you're going to be on hards next time. Okay, keep an eye on that gap ahead, please. 6.6 seconds. Okay, mate, we've got some clear track in front of us, and let's make the best of it. So please make this next one a very fast lap. Right, let's have you in at the end of this lap, please. Alright, we'll be doing one more stop today. One stop left in this strategy. Okay, don't worry about that target for now. Let's just focus on this pit stop. Okay, we had an issue attaching the left rear wheel. I know it's not ideal, but let's try and put that behind us now and get back into this race. That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go. Okay, here's the gap that we're trailing the car ahead by. 9.5 seconds. Okay, mate, after that front wing damage, we've got to look after it now. Please protect the front wing. Come on. Okay, Gabrielle's in the pits. Gabrielle is in the pits now. Okay, no issues with tyre wear for now. Keep taking care of them. Piastri has just set the fastest lap of the race. Okay, gap to the car ahead, 5.0 seconds. Good job on hitting that target, mate. Nice work. Still a long way to go, though. gap to the car in front. Ahead of you now. Okay, gap ahead, 3.6 seconds. Okay, they're on fresh hards. Okay, they've got 4 laps on their tyres. Time last lap, 1 minute 20.9. This is excellent stuff. You're closing in by 7/10 a lap. Gap to the car in front, 3.0 seconds. Okay mate, we need to save some ERS, so let's use all the techniques you know about to charge it up. Great stuff mate, you hit the target well there, nice one. There's a long way to go in this race though, so keep your head down. Ahead. Alright, Right, we're last of the running cars right now. Okay, we're currently at the back. That's last place. Gabrielle's ahead of you now. Okay, so gap to the car ahead, 3.3 seconds. Okay, they're on old hard tyres. Okay, their tyres are 7 laps old. And the time last lap, 1:20.5. Okay, you're dropping back by around 0.2 each lap. We might see some rain, ETA about 15 minutes. No need to worry about the tyre condition for now, everything's looking good. Caution! Someone's come off ahead of you, there's a yellow flag ahead. Okay, clear. Running low on ERS. Reminder that you can play around with ERS modes in the MFD or lift sometimes and ease onto the brake pedal for some manual recharge. Final lap, push, push. the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
Here's the checkered flag. The fans rise to their feet. It's Lando Norris for victory.
Well, it all came good in the end for them, but it wasn't an easy start. Not the most straightforward of days, but I think it shows great strength in an athlete as a driver when you can overcome a day like this and walk away still with a victory.
It's what they've all been racing towards, waiting for them. High above the pit lane is our podium. And for the lucky three, it's time to stand on it. He holds the trophy aloft, and why shouldn't he? A richly deserved win today for Lando Norris. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time out? Be sure to join us once again as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.